Hey guys. I think they only gave us one lollipop for the evening service. So many of us are here maybe not many of us will know the difficulty of moving from one city to another city. Some of us might know what it's like to move from one country to another country. This is not a British accent. But very few of us will know what moving one ministry to another ministry would feel like with children and doing all the other things besides. So we want to pray for you very specifically over the next 12 weeks and beyond. All right? Yeah, sorry to remind you about that. Okay. So just will ask you a few questions so it's really clear in our minds what you're getting yourselves into and how we can support you in multiple ways. So first of all, how are you feeling?
Scared. I think I'd say we're feeling... Is this on? Is it on?
No? Oh, there we are. Hey, yeah. I'd say I speak for myself, Emily can speak for herself. I'm feeling scared, genuinely scared. I think the closer we get to it, the more scared I'm feeling. And a bit more scared than excited. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of changing. And also humbled. I mean, particularly by today and things that have happened recently, just to be reminded of the great love that we've received from all of you in this church and the wider church family. And then, which is wonderful. But it'd be so much easier to go if you were horrible to us. Well, let's be honest. So there we go.
Well, you're asking them to be horrible. Yeah, I think that summarizes it in lots of ways. I know I've spoken and cried before about the daunting task ahead. We were singing "Be Bold and Be Strong" this morning, and with the passage tonight, that's not necessarily how we feel, but do very much feel that you're with us in this, and even more importantly, of course, that God is with us. Feel He's been orchestrating things and preparing us in many ways, both sort of emotionally but practically as well, and so very mixed feelings. And as in one sense, Ben does a lot of the sort of strategic planning and practical stuff and looking at bank accounts and all this sort of stuff. Meanwhile, I change another nappy and do those things. So it's difficult to kind of keep your head down and homework and at the same time be very much actively preparing, because it isn't long, as you say, 12 weeks. So muddle of all sorts, really.
Yeah. 12 weeks are going to go past really fast. For us too. Yeah. What did Jesus say about anxiety?
Yes,
don't be anxious for anything.
It's
yeah, it's really helpful. Emily, while you've got the mic, what are your concerns? What are the things that are most making you concerned you'd like us to pray about regarding the moving of a family from Chessington to Sweden?
Yes, so of course many things. There's the practical things, and you know that we are looking for a house, and we need a house, and only God can make that happen, because it's just impossible with how the system is set up and how late we are in sort of signing up for government lists for properties and things, and schools and all those sort of things. But of course, our greater need for us and for the children is our spiritual health, and that to remain in Him, to remain focused on Him in the midst of everything. So Sweden is a culture where, I mean, you mustn't talk about religion or politics in public. It's just, you're not allowed to do that. And he was asking me earlier and about, so is it okay for you to have a faith, you know, to yourself, or is it just taboo? So I think if you keep it to yourself, fine, you can waste your life living for whatever you want. But if you insist that other people also need to consider Christ, then that is just as bad as wrong as you can get. And of course, that's the reason we're going, is to confront people with this and to invite people to know Him. But it's just, I mean, it's the unforgivable sin culturally.
Are you finding that, having lived here, that our country is gradually edging that direction too?
I think so, but it's a much more multicultural society. Sweden has taken a lot of immigrants come in, but it's remained very segregated. So there are areas where there are more mixed or sort of people from from other countries living. Sort of more Swedish areas. It's very narrow-minded. It looks a particular way. People think a particular way. People eat a particular type of food. Listen to a type of music. Think politically, and you are absolutely secular. And so we're just wrong culturally, and so that scares me, but very much for the children's sake as well.
Yeah.
That they will be able to still to know Jesus and to be His and to love Him. Yeah.
Just Rob Dalton, who is now in Haiti, as you know, summed it up really well once I was talking to him. He said, Ben, you're not going to get eaten by cannibals in Sweden. That's not going to happen. That's a relief. But there's a much higher likelihood that you will walk away from the faith, or that your children will grow up and not love Jesus. What's scarier if you love Jesus right now, being eaten by cannibals, or that you'd lose your faith? I'd rather be eaten by cannibals. Yeah. I mean, that's the reality of it. So and I thought, yeah, Rob, you've kind of nailed it there. There are beautiful lakes. It's a really comfortable place in many, many ways, but it's really dangerous, spiritually speaking.
Yeah. Well, you've been our outreach pastor for 6-ish years now. Mm-hmm. So what lessons have you learned here that you find will be helpful in Sweden?
I think there's loads of different ways I can answer that question. I think the thing that comes to my mind is, I think in the past 7 years, my confidence in the Bible has grown immensely. So partly through the theological training that I've had, so thank you all for allowing me to go and do that and allowing me the time and actually paying for me to do that. That's been wonderful for the past 3 years. So that, but also sitting under really godly teachers of the Word, being in a strong eldership, that's been a wonderful learning experience for me as well. But I think particularly in light of the context of Sweden, in the church in Sweden, where they have pretty much just lost confidence in the Bible a long time ago. And actually tonight's passage is a really good example of that. You'll hear later on in the reading, there's some quite challenging stuff at the end of Joshua chapter 6. And the temptation is we might just erase those bits from the Bible because they're a little uncomfortable. Yeah. But the moment you start to do that, eventually you're going to lose John 3:16 as well. That will happen because the gospel is uncomfortable. And so, so I think going into that context where people have lost confidence in the Bible, to have a greater confidence in the Word of God, I think apologetics is great, but the Bible is the most powerful thing we have. So I think taking that with us is just a wonderful gift. So that's probably the biggest thing I'd say.
Yeah, I mean that's the apologetics thing has really helped me to not use it. Yeah. don't answer the question that Esmond asked.
It has a place. It has a place, but the Bible is definitely without doubt. Faith comes by hearing the Word of God.
The Master used it, so should we. Brilliant. Tell us, both of you, about the place and the church and the people that you're going to be going to.
So we are moving to, or hoping to, move to Gothenburg, which is it's Sweden's second biggest city. It's on the west coast, and it's a beautiful city. It's nicknamed Little London. It's I think the friendlier side of Sweden. Sorry, but it's kind of industrial port city, and it's near where I grew up. I have my mom and my 2 brothers there. And a few friends still, and hoping to make more. And the little church that we're going to is tiny. It's a very small church. It's a quite recent church plant, about 1.5 years-ish, or a year, something like that.
So about that big?
It's about 15 members, I think. And then that would be...
That's a good Sunday.
So it's a massive difference compared to here. But this was wonderful. So 3 of the guys from this church recently last weekend came to London for a conference, and they stayed at the Edwards. And I just took them over after the conference to introduce them, and we had a cup of tea and just sat and chatted. And it was this wonderful. You probably experienced this, maybe traveling or meeting Christians from other parts of the world for the first time, and just having this sense of family. Have you ever done that? We're just like, we're in this together. I've never met you, but we're brother and sister. Have you had that feeling ever? Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe. Some of you maybe
amen.
have. Anyway, thank you. And so it was wonderful. We were sitting there, and Neil and Viv were there. We were just chatting about the core and the gospel. And I was just, this is wonderful, because you do not get this in most churches in Sweden. Most Swedish Christians who would have been, if they had come there, and Neil says, and so how do you speak to people about sin? And most Swedish Christians would say, well, we don't really focus on that. We talk more about, Jesus, God being love or something. And you think, oh, we are not speaking the same language here. But this little church that we are going to be joining are those gospel people, where you're completely safe when they open the Word of God, and you know
Good.
that they're going to teach you the truth. And so that's, I mean, it's as scary as so many things are. We're so grateful that have found, after all these years, have found a church where they love Jesus and they love His Word.
Yeah, it's not about the numbers.
No.
It's about the quality.
Yeah.
It's conviction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. And Ben, finally, how can we best support you and Emily in this future? This is your chance to plug.
Keep calm and carry on with what you're doing, I think. I mean, please keep praying for us. If you haven't yet signed up to receive our prayer email, please do. You can find out information about that on the back of the leaflet you were given. But also, you'll notice in there's a white card, a pledge card. And we need to raise £65,000 a year for 3 years to kind of go. And you as a church have kind of committed to around more than 50% of that. And the way that's going to be done is through those pledge cards. So basically, as you make a pledge as an attender of this church, that will be used to support us. And Daft did the maths. If 100 people gave £6 a week over that 3 years, it would be £39,000 a year or something like that. That's a significant help for us. So if you could prayerfully consider how you could support us in that, and you fill out that card, pop it in a basket later on, and that'd be great. But no pressure. Just want to know what the Lord lays on your heart.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, guys.